January 16th, 1865, General William T. Sherman issued Field Order 15, which authorized the parceling of land for newly freed slaves, which were 40 acres. The mule obviously came later, but that's basically what he was doing. This was overturned by President Monroe after Abraham Lincoln's murder. He had a better idea. The better idea was to send all black people that wanted to leave. Well, he basically wanted everybody to leave, but even all black people that wanted to leave, he wanted to give them the opportunity to do so by going on a ship back to Africa. Now, it wasn't like you were going back to where they stole you from, because remember, this is about 200 years later, 300 years later. So the 2 or 3 generations or 4 generations that came before are obviously dead. So unless those stories were passed down, which they probably weren't, because they had to beat that out of us, you basically were going where they were sending you, which was Liberia, which happens to have a capital city called Monrovia. Now, what does that have to do with anything for the day? Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, because I wanted to talk about a couple of different things. Wanted to talk about monopoly, black business, and what we need to do to get rid of good old Willy Lynch. Now, first thing is monopoly. Now, how does monopoly tie in with the 40 acres and the mule situation? Well, slaves or enslaved persons were not given any kind of monetary compensation, because remember, after Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, he gave all slave owners, former slave owners, $200 per slave as reparations. Gave us nothing. So if you look at Monopoly, the way you play Monopoly, you start off the game with about $1,500. Each player gets $1,500, and you go around the board. And the object of the game is to be the man or the woman. Well, in the real world's Monopoly, black people were given 0 and told to try to go get 1,500, while the white people got 1,500 plus. Just say that we're playing black, white, and we're also playing against Mr. Jim Crow and racism. So black people are already starting the game off backwards. Well, we still went around the board somewhat. We went around the board because we had to make a way out of no way. So we started off owing Mr. White Man money for our turn at the board. And we made a pretty decent return on our negative investment in a way, because we built the 20th century. If it wasn't for us, the 20th century basically wouldn't have have a refrigerator. We wouldn't have Elijah McCoy building parts for cars. We wouldn't have a straightening comb. Wouldn't have the press to make those Jordans that everybody loves so much. They cost $200 and $300. We wouldn't have a whole bunch of stuff. There was a black person that did the mathematical equations to get us to the moon. I still doubt we went to the moon, but that's neither here nor there. But the reason I was bringing up the Monopoly game is because we were already set to lose, and we still tried to find a way to survive. How does this tie in with the Willy Lynch syndrome? Well, the way the white man plays the game, he brings out the light-skinned blacks and go up against the dark-skinned blacks and say, well, If you do this, I will give you this. And then he tells the dark-skinned blacks, if you do this, I will give you this. So he puts us against each other in order for us to not want to work together so we can get our $1,500, because we are one race, but they split us up. We need to do better. It is time for us to work together so we can get around this board. Matter of fact, we need to get our own board. And we need to get it now. I was talking to some people about, this situation that we got going on right now with the elections, and how Obama is going to be out of office, and we're going to be given the choice of Trump or Clinton. Really, as we've seen for the last 8 years with Obama, it don't matter who's in the White House. They're not paying attention to us unless they want our vote. So we need to start doing for self. So I propose that we come up with our own game. I alluded to in the last video one of my favorite movies, Blazing Saddles, about the scene where the blacks were bringing up the rear of the wagon train that was going west for a new life in California and other western countries, and how when the Indians came and raided the whites and started circling their wagons, the blacks were by themselves, the black family were by themselves, and they just started going in circles by themselves. So when they, did all they were going to do to the white folks, they came back to the blacks' wagon, and they looked at them and said, woo, they dark as us. Just leave them alone. Let them go. He said, you can go. Have a good one. They like, thank you. That alludes back to the Orlando shooting, real quick, about the guy saying that he's not here to kill black people because he knows, he knows the problems that we've been going through. So you tie all this together. We already know for the last 300 plus years, we were enslaved. We had over 100 and some years of segregation, Jim Crow, and then we got another about 60 some years of good old integration. None of them have helped our race on the whole. It's time for us to come up with our own Monopoly game where we play with ourselves. But instead of just American blacks, we need to add the African blacks, the Caribbean blacks, the South American blacks, and everybody else that's black in the world. Put them all together and we can start building our own Monopoly game. So we can monopolize ourselves. We create jobs, we create businesses, we create opportunities for our people, and we dictate the temperature of the oven. We've been waiting at the door of somebody else's kitchen for far too long. It's time for us now to dictate the temperature in the kitchen. Like I said about there's people going by. As I said about the Monopoly game, the white man is a player and the bank. We need to say we're done playing and we're gonna get our own bank. I mean, there's nothing else that could be really said, but it's just time to do it. Playtime is over. We have no more time. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's our time now.